In a related development, the rising cost of energy is having a huge toll on businesses in Nigeria, with many finding it difficult to stay afloat. Apart from eating deep into the profit margins of businesses, the high cost of petrol has significantly impacted on the food supply chain. Now, the rise in fuel price has also led to increased transportation costs, which are often passed on to consumers. Now, the direct effect of this is inflation and reduced purchasing power. Well, to help us understand this issue and what can be done to reduce the cost of energy in the country, we have joining us in the studio a petroleum engineer and public policy analyst, Dr. Abubakar Alkali. He's also a lecturer at Bayes University in Abuja. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, yeah.
All right, talk to us about these challenges that we have. The movement of food across the country is through big trucks. And then, of course, those trucks use diesel. And then we've seen the price of diesel shoot up astronomically. And then, of course, the flip side here also is that when there was the removal of petrol subsidy, that affected the movement of goods, also agricultural goods. Using smaller trucks here and there to actually move the goods to the market. And that has been rising, and then you've seen what has happened throughout the country. I mean, you wrote this beautiful, what's it called, piece during the week, and you try to draw attention to the need to actually revisit the relationship between energy and then cost of transportation, and then, of course, the issue of food security. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, thank you very much, editor. Obviously, energy security is key to food security, and obviously food security is an SDG, a sustainable development goal, and there are about 3 factors now within the context of Nigeria today. 3 factors that we have to look at, in relation to food security. And you have, obviously, number one, energy security, you have climate change, and you have also terrorism, as we have it today in Nigeria. So energy security, obviously, energy security and food security, you have a common denominator, which is transportation, which I think you actually mentioned in your presentation. So as long as transportation is high, then the price of food, even the production of food, will be high. Okay, so you actually have a situation where what is playing out now is a situation where you don't have the food, okay, because it's not produced in the first place, because of this aspect of terrorism that I'm talking about, which has drastically affected the production capacity of the farmers. Because fortunately or unfortunately, we don't produce food, we don't cultivate these crops in our homes, okay? We cultivated, we produce them, we plant them, we cultivate them in the farms, in the forests. So we have to transport them to the cities, to the villages, to the markets, okay? And that is why I said that is the common denominator. So what is playing out now is actually a result of the distortions, okay, in the price of energy, which has affected not only the price, but the availability of food, okay? Of course, as part of food security, you need physical access to food. You also need the economic access. So someone might tell you that, no, there is enough food in the land, which I actually disagree with. But even going by that there is enough food in the land. Yeah,
you are saying that there's enough food, but transporting them remains a huge challenge too.
That's not, to be honest, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that some people said there is enough food, but I disagree.
Oh, you disagree?
I disagree.
There
isn't enough food because of the terrorist activities going on in some parts of the country, majorly, okay? And I'm saying that even if you have this enough food, in the land. As long as there is no economic access to it, then it all comes to naught, because people cannot buy. Okay, the food could be available, but people cannot buy because the producer, the farmer, has to include the cost of transportation. Actually now, farmers include the levies imposed on them by terrorists in the prices.
Of food?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, because we hear that in some of the northern states, I mean, some of these bandits actually levy the farmers for the use of farms and then sale of produce and all of that.
Absolutely, absolutely. That is a common thing now. So what farmers do is, if they pay bandits 2 million or 3 million, as the case may be, or more or less, they now include it in the cost of food. Actually, in some states, Zamfara, for example, some food sellers actually close their shops because people cannot buy. Okay, so you now have a very urgent need, okay, for the government to look at, how this could be revisited. I mean, it's stopgap measures, temporary measures in form of palliatives, have proven not to be very effective. You see, there is need for a long-term solution to this problem. This fuel subsidy issue has distorted the system completely.
That's the removal of the fuel subsidy.
The removal of the fuel subsidy, withdrawal of fuel subsidy has distorted the system completely. It has brought food insecurity. It has brought food insecurity in the system. And what is needed is now to look at how that can be ameliorated. Obviously.
So what are some of the alternatives that you actually advise government to take a look at from within the energy sector? Because there were issues of CNG buses and trucks and all of that the government was talking about. And I mean, since last year, not much has been heard about those CNG-powered vehicles.
No, CNG is... obviously, if you ask me, yeah, there was a good intention behind it, but it's just a political kind of template.
You think so?
To actually convince the people. Okay, tell me, if not for maybe Abuja and Lagos, maybe Port Harcourt, where do you have the capacity to maintain these CNG buses? Where do you have the? And if you ask me, actually, the CNG buses, it shouldn't be a situation as is today, where you just go and buy these buses and bring them. Okay, actually, Nigeria should be talking about how we can, produce this gas ourselves, this compressed gas. How we can produce these vehicles ourselves. Okay, so a situation where, as you also said, we have not had much. Almost 5-6 months on, we have not had much about the CNG. So it was just part of the palliative measures. Okay, I keep talking about long-term. The people want to see long-term sustainable solutions. Now, apart from the CNG, the trucks, okay, the trucks.
Yeah, which are powered by diesel.
Yes, powered by diesel. Yes, the government, also not even the heavy trucks you're talking about, you're actually talking about, as part of the palliatives, government should get these smaller canter trucks, okay? But I always feel that government should work with the private sector in this because, in most cases, government property doesn't, the maintenance culture and all of that. So government needs to get some of these smaller trucks, smaller vehicles that can access the farms, okay, and bring out these goods. For example, you could actually work with the private sector to say, okay, look, we need 5 canters from you, and we'll be paying you this much. And you will now subsidize the cost of transportation from point A to point B for the farmers, and we'll pay you that cost of that
if there's an established delivery. Actually, because we've seen instances where government pays for those, and then people go and fill books without the actual delivery. So how do you think the government can actually put in place a mechanism to ensure that if government is subsidizing, for example, trucks, because in other countries I've seen where they say that trucks actually load food are painted in green. And so if they are painted in green, then of course nobody should stop them, or they will enjoy the sort of subsidy that you're talking about. So how do we ensure that the program does not get infiltrated in such a way that it's abused?
I fully agree with you, Editor. I fully agree with you. As a matter of fact, you know, part of the things I stated in that article was the need for due diligence. Critical decisions such as fuel subsidy, which, if you ask me, was haphazardly removed, floating the naira. These are very critical, you know, issues. So do a due diligence and ensure that all the loopholes, you know, I mean, majorly, most of the loopholes are plugged. So if you now go into this kind of arrangement where you give contracts to transporters, okay, of small vans to say, get this product from point A to B, for every kilo we will pay you this. You have actually this problem where somebody will just connive, government officials connive with the businessmen and shortchange the system. So actually the solution there obviously will be proper regulation, proper monitoring. Of course, it still comes down to the government officials, but that is more or less the only thing. And don't pay upfront, as we have seen in most of these cases where government pays upfront. Now you have a situation where there will be problems, but to a good extent, if proper regulation, you know, is there, then I really think it could help, you know, solve part of the problem.
All right. Yeah, I mean, you are from the north and you see the movement of trucks every now and then from Jigawa, from Kano and all of that, heading to Niger, heading to Cameroon with food and all of that. The Minister of Agriculture is actually saying that, look, it looks like we just have to stop this movement of trucks and all of that with food to neighboring countries since we don't have so much. What would be your view about such a decision? Do you think it's something
obviously it will boost food insecurity. It will boost our food security. Smuggling across borders of foodstuff, like we had smuggling of petroleum products, obviously will create more scarcity in the system. Okay, there will be less liquidity in the system. So the government actually has a duty to stop that. What is making it happen is the devaluation of the naira. You see, these issues are interconnected.
Yeah, in one way or the other. Because farmers are also thinking of earning more when they sell outside the country, because, I mean, they are actually earning hard currency since the devaluation of the naira too.
Absolutely. SEFA was I think 2 naira 50 kobo about 20 years ago. Now it's about you know, 400. And so if you smuggle this food across borders, you earn safer and you come back. So that calls for proper border, you know, monitoring, proper border monitoring. Now, just like fuel subsidy, you see, when you have this kind of problems, when you have corruption, okay, in a particular sector, you don't actually like just crash that sector or stop that sector. You actually go after the corruption. Okay, so the government has a duty to identify those who are smuggling this food. They are known. Just like the government has a duty to identify those who are milking the country who milk the country out of fuel subsidy. The option is not to stop fuel subsidy. The option is to actually go for the corrupt, because corruption seems to be the 9 out of 10 the major reason why fuel subsidy. So we shouldn't have the same situation in food security now, why you say, okay, they are you know, crossing borders. So look, they just go straight to the point and get those people. You see, Editor, the problem is whenever these kinds of things happen, you don't have a deterrent. Tell me one person that was convicted, that was prosecuted, you see, from the almost endless terrorism that we have had, from even the fuel subsidy, you know, which some top government officials actually said are too powerful. Okay, so you need a deterrent. By the time someone smuggles food Look, I give you an example. In Benin Republic, actually, at some point, cotton, you see, was their major.
Yeah, their mainstay, the mainstay of the economy.
Now, there is special penalty for smuggling cotton out of the country. Special, okay? In one country that was, benefiting, getting most of its revenue from port activities. If someone is caught, okay, taking anything that doesn't belong to them, a spare or something from the cars of importers, actually, they make him consume engine oil. And they say, you see, so the fact is, once you don't deter, people will continue to do it.
Okay, interesting perspective here. Now, as we try to round up this conversation, talk to us about how we have several roadblocks also across different towns. I mean, some of the farmers have been complaining that when they are moving, when they eventually get these trucks and they are moving their goods from one town to the other, there are several checkpoints where they have to pay police, pay this, pay that, pay the other person and all of that. Several checkpoints are along the way. And of course, those who are trucking these goods, the farm products, of course, they are not doing for free. So if they are giving people monies, bribes on the road, and of course, that will eventually be factored into how much they will be charging the farmers, absolutely, and the farmers will transfer the aggression, of course, to consumers. So how do we ensure that we actually put a halt to all this multiple taxation on the road, some of them bribery, some of them legal, actually, because local governments collect their taxes on the roads from those trucks?
Yeah, actually, the roadblocks also create hiccups, but you actually also find out that there are quite a few of these roadblocks that are actually illegal. There are some that are just set up by maybe, local vigilante or even some officers, okay, that are not assigned to do that. So it all comes down to this issue of deterrent. By the time government actually, prosecutes one person, okay, who has done that, and the government in this case has to work with the unions of these farmers, okay? And there should be reportage. There should be record keeping. The union should keep records of all these trucks and, the number of roadblocks they have passed, and the government can now assess, okay? Government can now assess. We have the police, we have the immigration, okay? These are institutions, these are agencies that can actually assess these issues and actually audit. There should be an audit of all these roadblocks. Government should audit roadblocks and ensure that only those that are actually legal are allowed. And any officer that is caught taking what doesn't belong to them, by the time you prosecute one person, to be quite honest, others will learn from it. Yes, so this is culture of impunity is what is actually fueling almost everything. There is a culture of impunity, and people just set up roadblocks on farmers, and these farmers have been complaining about this. Okay. And nobody has, now to even some extent, some farmers feel it is pointless, okay, to report to government because they feel no action will be taken.
Okay, just before I let you go, talk to us about this issue that I was talking about. That in some countries you go to, you could actually see these trucks that transport food actually being painted in green, so that once police or the legal checkpoints, once they see them, they know that, look, these ones are transporting food, which even the policemen actually eat too, or other, including military checkpoints here and there. Could we have a policy from Abuja that could be cascaded into the states to actually have things like that, where you have specialized transport modes, including railway too? I mean, how to transport food efficiently across the country using different modes of transportation, whether through trucking, through railways, or through inland waterways or something like that. Yeah,
obviously, the railway system, these are actually long-term solutions. We are talking of now, actually, editor, we were talking of people not being able to feed because some few individuals have to, some saboteurs of the system have to make money at all costs. You see, so if it comes to it, food distributors, farmers, people who move food around should be licensed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, they should be licensed.
Yes.
For those who move food around.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It comes to that. People who move food should be licensed. People who move food should be licensed. People who move fuel are licensed, isn't it? People who trade in foreign exchange are licensed, isn't it? So people who, this is very critical, because you see, this food security is, you know, is critical to almost every aspect of development.
Yeah, very
so
quickly.
There should be the licensing method, okay, to ensure that checks and balances are put in place. All
right, we must thank you so much, Dr. Abubakar Alkali. If there's one thing I'm actually taking home today from all the discussion we've had here, is this issue you have just brought, just very quickly now, the issues of licensing those who actually move food around. I think it's something that the government should really take a look at, because, I mean, it could help provide direction as to where food is being produced and where it's being moved to, and who is moving it, and what time it's being delivered.
Absolutely.
We must thank you so much for joining us to help us understand these issues. The nexus between transportation, that's energy security, and food security is actually transportation, based on what he has told us here. And that's the much we can take on this edition of This Week. Thanks to our production team here in Abuja, Lagos, and London. Do join us same time next week for another exciting edition. I'm Sam Nasambo.